Yo, what's going on, guys? RageLB back again, and we got a car mount today. I don't know if this is gonna be one I use going forward. Uh, it hooks into your air vents, and I think my air vents are a little too thick. And the only way I could get it to stay in an air vent is to put it more toward the middle, and I'm like leaning over in my seat so I'm centered, or at least like because if I was sitting normal, I'd be over here. So I might look into some other mounts and see if there's a better option for my phone. But anyways, get back into today's Bible verse, and today it is from Hebrews 13:5, and it says, "Let your conversation be without covetousness. Really, let your conversation be without covetousness, and be content with the things that you have. For he, capital He, so God, for He has said, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee." And I think that's a reminder that as long as you have Jesus, that's all you need. The only thing you need is Him. That's why He is the Word. That is why He is the bread of life. That is why we fast. That's the whole big picture. Is that if you strip your life down and the only thing you have from is God and Jesus and the Holy Trinity, if you start there and build up based on that, then not only is your foundation a rock, it's the best rock. Like you're you can't have a better foundation, and that's why it's saying, hey, don't covet what other people have, because who knows how they got it. I mean, there's there there's things. I know everybody says, oh, everybody has a price. So what's your price for your belief in Jesus? Because I know what mine is. There isn't anything on earth worth what my soul is worth. So, people wonder why Christians turn the other cheek, why Christians suffer on earth. And it's because, it's funny. If you look at like a lot of secular movies, a lot of secular villains, they're all chasing immortality. When all you have to do as a Christian is accept Jesus, and you have we believe you have an immortal soul. We believe that our time on this earth is just the beginning. We believe there is something more later on. And that's why we're willing to turn the other cheek. That's why we're willing to give things like revenge to God. Because we know these earthly things are temporary. And we are building for what the end goal is. And that's for when Christ returns. And I say Christ returns more than, when you pass away and going, because personally, you look at all the highest IQ people that have studied the Bible, and we don't know exactly where we are in the timeline, but we know we're in the 11th hour at minimum. We're in, this world ain't got long left. There is a time when people are like, well, how would they ever be able to track whether you paid with your hand or your forehead? There was a time before computer chips were a thing. And now computer chips are here, AI is here, like, the surveillance state is trying to make its way here, like, if it's not already here, So, all the pieces here, there's enough people on the planet, like, because when you read the book of Revelations, it talks about there's a 200 million man army that rises up against Christians and against the and now there's probably that in the China army alone. So if you look at who the end times enemies of Israel will be, they got they got the manpower, and the world is kind of in this giant, like, breath, that inner breath you take before you go underwater. We're in that moment. And for Christians, that'll be the day we're finally proven right. You know? And hopefully some of the beginning of the end times will wake up some people who are still on the fence. Because there are some people who are still on the fence that, I mean, we're all worth changing and coming over. But what I'm saying is, there's still people that are like, they're like right there. They just need that push to say Christianity is the way, the Bible is true. And I think that's why there's a little bit of tribulation for even when the Christians are still here. Because it helps people get out of that lukewarm, or that, I think the Bible's right, but I don't know. Because that's where I was. I was what they called an agnostic. I believed there was a creator, but I wasn't sure the Bible was the right thing. And as the days go, and as the time period gets, like, as the book of Revelation is, like, playing out in front of our eyes, like, it's undeniable. So, and I think the book of Enoch and the Dead Sea Scrolls should be studied as well. I think there's truth in those. There's a reason why the Ethiopian Bible is the oldest Bible. So if you're new to this, just pick it up like another book. Start reading from Genesis 1 and make your way through the whole book, and then you can come back and start figuring out the different topics of each, like, sect of area. Like, you'll learn Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John is what we call the gospel. You'll learn the Old Testament and New Testament. Like, you'll learn that stuff as you go. But if you just want a starting point, you can literally start at Genesis 1 and just make your way through the Bible. Just keep in mind that the Old Testament, because in most Bibles it will break it down, Old Testament books first, New Testament books second. And there will be like a line drawn in the book of, this is the Old Testament, this is the New Testament. Just keep in mind, as a believer in Christ, we believe some of the things in the Old Testament don't apply anymore, because Jesus was the Messiah who came and sacrificed himself so that we wouldn't have to do certain things anymore. That was the whole point of him coming. That was the whole point of his resurrection. That's the whole point. So, anyways, if this is the first time on one of my videos, please drop me a follow, like this video, share it with your friends. And we don't just say that to grift. We say that because YouTube and the other social media companies have told us how the algorithms work, and that's how the algorithms work. And so it's not only grifters say that, or no. That's just people who have been told what the algorithm is, and they're telling you, hey, we're trying to be upfront and honest. This is how we spread our message. This is what the algorithm is. This is how it works. This is what it does. So, please keep that in mind, not just for me, but for anybody you follow. Because at the end of the day, our message is what we care more about. But we know that algorithmic push is the only way it gets out. But anyways, I already said my spiel, so I will catch y'all tomorrow. Peace.